Before I begin, I would just like to give a disclaimer that these views and these words are mine and mine only, and in no way represent those of the U.S. military. The reason that I say that is because I'm still in the U.S. military. I have 3 more years left. And so there's certain things that I'm authorized to say, certain things that I'm unauthorized to say. In fact, on the plane ride over here from Washington, D.C., I was talking with a person across the aisle from me about Afghanistan and the entire flight. And as we were about to land, the gentleman sitting next to me asked me what my rank was and started to inform me what I'm authorized to say and what I'm unauthorized to say. And then he flashed me his military ID, showing that he's an officer. And when we got off the flight, he pulled me aside and told me, for example, let's say you're talking to someone about Libya. If they start to bring up negative things like civilian deaths or arming the rebels, you should just say, look, all I know is that our mission is to protect the civilians of Libya, and just leave it at that. Just leave it at that. Now, I've always tried to be the best soldier that I could be. When I was in basic training in AIT, I was the Distinguished Honor Graduate, consistently scored a 300 on my PT test. I volunteered to go to Afghanistan. I could have deferred to the college first program, but I wanted to go. And I volunteered for every mission that I could. And so I've always tried to be the best soldier that I could be, and I'll continue to try to be the best soldier that I could be. So I'll comply with what the officer told me and asked me to do. And I'll just state the official mission in Afghanistan, and I won't give my opinion about it or my experiences about it. When I deployed to Afghanistan, what we were told is that the official mission is to support, defend, and develop the government of Afghanistan and to defeat the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. And while I was over there, the Pentagon was telling the media that what we're doing isn't working, that we need to do something different. And I wanted to be a part of that process to try to make war work in Afghanistan. So to be the best soldier that I could be, I was trying to answer that question, and I was studying warfare, I was studying counterinsurgency, and the history and culture of Afghanistan, the Taliban, and Al-Qaeda. And what I was beginning to learn was extremely uncomforting, and it's only grown more uncomforting every day. And so I'll tell you what I've learned. I'll just state the facts, and I won't give my opinions about them. It's not confidential information. You can get it anywhere. We're supporting a civil war in Afghanistan between the Taliban and Northern Alliance that's been waging since the 90s. We are supporting the Northern Alliance through the government of Afghanistan. This is the government that first started to employ the oppressive laws against women before the Taliban did. They're responsible for 25,000 civilian deaths in Kabul in the early 90s. We're supporting a government of warlords and drug lords, the second most corrupt government in the entire world. They're not a democracy according to Freedom House. 55% of their GDP comes from bribes and drug money. They are a narco state. They are the largest exporter of heroin in the entire world. President Karzai's half-brother is the largest pusher of opium in Afghanistan. In 2007, because of corruption, he nominated as the anti-corruption chief a man who was previously arrested for selling heroin in Nevada to an undercover cop. This is the government that we're supporting. They have a 50% unemployment rate, and despite that number, when a copper mine was discovered in northern Afghanistan, local politicians sold it to the Chinese for millions of dollars, pocketed the money, and even though there were billions of dollars in those mines that could have been distributed to the Afghan people, their jobs, they weren't. And this is the government that we're supporting. None of the 9/11 suspects came from Afghanistan. The training was conducted in the US, the planning was conducted in Europe. Osama bin Laden is from Saudi Arabia. He came to Afghanistan because Al-Qaeda doesn't have the capability, they don't have the manpower, the resources to mount their own conflicts, so they latched themselves under pre-existing conflicts in countries like they do in Yemen, in Indonesia, and like they did in Iraq. And they did it in Afghanistan in the 90s with the Civil War. And they fought on the side of the Taliban against the Northern Alliance. And 2 days before 9/11, they assassinated the leader of the Northern Alliance without the Taliban knowing. The Taliban didn't know about that. They didn't know about 9/11. What Al-Qaeda was doing was trying to engineer a quagmire in Afghanistan, and 9/11 was a way of baiting us to go to Afghanistan and to be there for an undetermined amount of time and to bankrupt us ultimately, just like they did to the Soviets. And every time they do a terrorist attack, whether it's successful or not, it's designed to keep us distracted so we stay there until we bankrupt ourselves. And now we are in the worst economic situation since the Great Depression. These are things that I know on a daily basis at the same time that I know that I am eligible for deployment every day, and that my fellow soldiers are eligible for deployment every day. And these are the things that I deal with. And it eats away inside because I want to be the best soldier that I can be. And to exemplify the 7 Army values, and integrity means more to me than any other value, and it's the one that I struggle with the most. Because the Army defines it as to do what's right legally and ethically, even when nobody's watching. But what I struggle with is to do what's right when people are watching, to say what needs to be said when the military is listening to me. And I can't say everything that I want to say and need to say to you, and I can't say everything because I'm not authorized to do so. But I'll share with you one story because it's personal enough that I know that I can't get in trouble for it. So when I was in Afghanistan, there was a bomb maker who blew himself up because the bomb he was making prematurely exploded. So he came to our base to be treated. We amputated his hands to keep him alive, and he was sedated. And while he was sedated, I babysat him for an hour. It was just me and him alone in a room. And the entire time, all I could think to myself was, I have never had an enemy in my entire life. And here's a 16-year-old boy, thousands of miles away from my home, who not only wants to kill me, but he wants to mutilate my body, and he doesn't know anything about me, except that I'm supposed to want to kill him. But at that moment, I realized that I have zero desire to kill this boy, and I know nothing about him. But what I do know is that I wanted to know everything about him, and I wanted to know who his mother was and where she was, because I thought she must be worrying sick about her son. And I wanted to know if there was some girl that he secretly had a crush on, and what his favorite joke was, and what he said when he prayed to God. I wanted to know what made him a human being and not my enemy, because I want to be a good person, and I don't want to be an enemy of anyone, and I have no desire to kill anyone anymore. I would rather die than to kill another human being. And yet, something inside of me still wants to be a good soldier, and so I can't express my opinion completely, and there's certain things I can't say. But what I will do is I'll echo the words of a general who can say what he wants to say, who has a much better reputation than I do in the military. He said, "In the evolution of civilization, if it is to survive, all men cannot fail eventually to adopt Gandhi's belief that the process of mass application of force to resolve contentious issues is fundamentally not only wrong, but contains within itself the germs of self-destruction." That was General Douglas MacArthur.